I wasn't into any of that. So our fun during high school was to go down into the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and we would walk anywhere we could off of Riverview Road, the train tracks. There were, the park system was buying out houses. They were giving everybody a 99-year lease, and when you're a high school kid, abandoned houses are a gold mine. We would break into these houses all the time, go looking around and just exploring, and that was our rush. That's all I did in high school, was we just went out playing around in the woods during the daytime, but especially at night. I had a young cousin who we used to always tell him, oh, we see this, we see this. He was 11 years old while doing this, and he'd never come out with us. Well, after I graduated high school, I joined the Army, and I was active duty. I was stationed in Germany. In 1995, I came home for my sister's graduation party. While I was home for her graduation party, my cousin was over, and we went to the fireworks in Independence. And after the fireworks were over, a couple of my other friends, they all wanted to go partying. I had my young cousin with me. We didn't want to drag him along to these parties where everybody's drinking. So we told him, hey, for kind of old times, let's go down and do a night hike. You'd always wanted to do one. So this is how we ended up down in the park. The first place we wanted to go to, it was called the Top House. It was right next to the Boston Mills Ski Resort. There was a house up on the top of the hill. We parked where we normally would off the side of Riverview Road. We get about a third of the way up the hill, and we noticed that the house had been demolished. So it was a bust. So we get back in my car. We start heading down this other road, going down towards where Helltown is, if anybody's ever heard of Helltown. As we were going towards Helltown, we got passed by a park ranger who immediately, once he saw a car full of young kids, he hit his brakes. So we turned around, we headed back, we passed him again because he just did the slow drive-by, and we're just like, shit, it was another bust. So our last resort is we decide, let's go hike these railroad tracks. If anybody's familiar with the area down there where Brandywine Ski Resort is, there's a street called Vaughan Road. Right on the corner of the street is a public parking spot. Now by this time it was probably about 11:30 at night. We parked in that spot. Our intent was to walk down the train tracks where they had train cars parked, and we were just going to see if we could get into the cars, poke around a little bit, and see what's going on. So we get down onto the train tracks. There were three of us, my cousin Ken, a high school friend named Aaron, and we're just walking down the tracks, bullshitting with each other. We get maybe not quite a quarter of a mile where we're out of this wooded area. We just start to get in where there's a swamp in between us on the train tracks and Riverview Road. Riverview's to our left-hand side, to the west. But just as soon as we get past that area, we hear this long, drawn-out, high-pitched scream. Came from way across the road up on this big ridge or hill line. Kind of started out low. It sounded a lot like a peacock, but it lasted. If you set your stopwatch and check 5-6 seconds, that's about how long the wail was. And we all looked at each other, didn't know what it was. We blew it off, like maybe it was raccoons fighting or something tearing up a rabbit or something that would make a scream like that. And we blew it off, we kept walking, and as we were walking, the swamp was typical. There were beavers swimming around. You heard just like this, you heard crickets, you heard the regular bugs at night. And we passed through the swampy area, and we get into where it's a heavily wooded spot, and that's where the train cars were. And we poked around the train cars for a while. There were about 4 of them parked there. Every single one of them were locked up tight. We couldn't get in, so we just decided, screw it, we're going to turn around and come home. So we turn around, we're heading back on the train tracks now, we're heading south. We get out of the woods, we're back into the wide open area where the swampland is. We get about 500-600 feet, and out of nowhere, we just get this scream. This thing screams with just such force and intensity that we just all froze. And it's just this long, drawn out, extremely angry. It started out really high pitch, and just got down into this guttural. It wasn't a roar, I mean it was an all-out just guttural yell. And we're frozen, we're fixated on the swamp, and we can't see anything. Everything is smooth. There's no ripples in the water. There's nothing. And if you've ever been to a parade, sitting up close when the fire trucks are going by, that's about how loud the volume that it was. And it's just this scream coming out of nowhere, and we're looking, and all you see, we saw what we thought was a tree stump, because there's cattails and everything there. And my friend, the three of us were just standing in like a triangle formation. My friend Aaron, he's grabbing me by the shoulder, and he's just going, yo, what the fuck was that? And as soon as he said that, it was like something just exploded up out of the water. It just leaped up and started charging. And you could see out of the water. What initially we thought was the tree stump must have been something either squatting down or standing chest deep, because it just started charging just like this. Like if you were trying to run through water, you could just see this huge torso, arms swinging like this. The distance was from here to the fence, is about where it was. And I told Mark, as soon as that thing started charging at us, we took off running on the train tracks. And as fast as we could run, that was when I was in the best shape of my life, active duty Army. As fast as I could haul ass down those tracks is how fast this thing came charging through muck and cattails and water. And it stopped right at the foot of the tracks. And we just kept running. I was the last one in line, practically pushing my cousin. My cousin's yelling, holy shit, as he's running. And I'm looking behind him, and all you could just see is a silhouette. It just stood just like this. Once it got to the edge of where the tracks were, it just stood like this. We couldn't see any big details other than it was just a dark black silhouette. But the outline of it was like people like you would see a bodybuilder, and I imagine only because if it was hair covered, it was all wet and slicked down to the body. But its shoulders looked like it had to be this wide. It cut down to a real narrow waist and just had these gigantic thighs. And its arms, when it was sitting there like this, its arms were hanging down to its knee. And we hauled ass to the car, and we knew that area fairly well, but we wouldn't drive. We came in from the north, from Route 82 in Brecksville, and we took the long way back. I mean, I went all the way down to 303 and back up to Brecksville Road.
You know the area well because I do tours down there, yep.
Yeah, and that was it was absolutely crazy.
Wow. Anybody got any questions for him?
18 years ago, that was 4th of July, 95. I'll never forget that.
Were you guys doing any whoops or anything while you were going down the tracks?
No, I mean, no whoops or nothing. We were just talking, and I mean, we weren't even really being obnoxious, but just just typical three young guys just walking and talking, and nothing too special.
Were you maybe tossing rocks or anything? Were you hearing maybe just tossing something?
No, I mean,
okay.
Other than maybe kicking a few of the big, the rocks, the bull nuts, those big number one limestone, other than maybe kicking a few of those as you're walking.
None of them were like maybe picked up and tossed? Okay,
no.
That might be a provocation, Wow, I've never heard of anything coming up out of the water. That's somebody.
And
wow.
Like I told Mark before, obviously at 21 years old I had heard of Bigfoot, but it was always stories that you would hear from Pacific Northwest or Canada or Alaska.
Yeah.
You're south of downtown Cleveland. That's the last thing we were expecting to see. Was
how tall do you think it was?
I guess it had to be 7.5 to 8 feet tall, because the tracks rolled down almost about 4 feet, and it looked like the distance that was standing on the ground was at least that high above the tracks.
Did you go back after that to check things out?
I had never, the very...
A couple months ago with me.
Oh, yeah?
The very next day,
oh, yeah?
the cousin who was having the party that we didn't go to, she had wanted to go down there. We got as far as the parking lot and onto the tracks, and that was it. It took on the left. And in 18 years, I had never gone back to that site until the first time Mark had asked if I would share the story at the Bigfoot conference. And the prick, when he asked me to do that, I couldn't sleep all that night because it just kept going through my brain.
I understand to get him to this point now, it's taken a decade.
Wow, dude. It scared you,
Before I told him the story, there were probably less than a dozen people that had heard the story from my own lips, other than like immediate family. Because anytime you would tell somebody, they would just laugh, oh, you guys are smoking weed.
The only way I got the story out of him is that I worked with his mom.
Oh, wow.
And then he called me,
Blew me off.
or my mom gave me his number, I called him, and then I kind of blew off the report, and a year later he called me back, and that's when I finally put it down. But even still, I've been to the conference, I think I've been going now since 2008,
Right.
and I still haven't even really told too many people the
Well, I'm so
story.
glad you told us. Wow.
It's easier for me now.
Did you guys check out that Sharon Lee got up and ran over, got her recorder real quick and put it out, then ran back and sat down?
Nobody wants to read your
You see how professional she is? She jumped at the chance. She's a
I think it's
reporter.
15885, I believe.
The big field
I think it's
reporters on the ball here.
15885.
Good going, Sharon.
No, is it 13.5?
Was there a specific reason that you chose not to go back there?
You know, it's always just kind of been nerves. I didn't expect it to come out of the woods in the first place. And that's kind of why I gave the preface to the story, is that when I was younger, we loved going out in the woods. We'd go out and do owl calls. We weren't doing any that night, but we'd go out and do owl calls that our biology teacher taught us how to do. And, you know, we'd get them coming in and just loved it. Night hikes were the best thing. And other than, like, when I was in the Army in a controlled environment, being out in the woods, we also had an off-road club with Jeeps and big mud trucks and everything like that, where obviously we'd be out in the woods at night, but in 18 years I'd never ventured more than a distance of a campfire or distance of my truck's headlights away unless I was with like a controlled group of people. I just could never get myself to do it. And just recently I've been getting the bug to just go back, and Mark and I went for a hike the other night, and I was surprised how...
15.885.
15.885?
What's
Yeah,
15885?
that's my BFRO report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 15885.
Wow. I've heard of this where people get traumatized and they don't talk about it. I mean, I saw this Bigfoot in 2008, and I'm just now starting to talk about it, although I wasn't traumatized like you were.
And it's weird to say traumatized, because I don't really feel like it's that, but maybe the actions of how I've been over the years, that's what it is. You know, I've never had reoccurring dreams. I've never had like nightmares of it or whatever, but there's at least 30 seconds of every day for the last 18 years that something reminds me, and I think about it every single day since it's happened.
That's something. Well, thanks for being brave and sharing it with us. I think you're over the whole shock of it now.
Yeah, I'll tell a few people every here and there.
That's awesome. Well, we believe. I feel like I'm in a therapy room. That's awesome.
What's that? That's kind of what got me talking about it. Before, unless I was introduced to somebody by you, I would usually just say tight-lipped and not even say anything about it. But yeah, I got to thank Mark for that.
Well, that's pretty much what we're going to do tonight, is share a lot of Bigfoot stories and also talk about what we do in the field and how we do it, and we're all going to share our expertise. I don't have as fabulous stuff to show you as Mark Mazel does, but when I go off into the woods, I carry a Bigfoot pack, and I always carry a backpack. I always carry what's called a DNA kit. DNA kit has sterile bottles, sterile tools, wipes. I have sterile gloves. I tend to, sometimes I like to bait, and I just like to put bait out or things for Bigfoots. I like to use these bags because the smell will go, you know, the smell will be blown around in them. You know, just different collection things. This is just in case we find a hair or some kind of a sample or something. You can actually carry sterile bottles. Also, if you were to buy little boxes of baby, you know, like the Q-tips and ear tips and stuff, those are naturally sterile. So you'd want to keep a batch of those in there in case you got blood or something to swab up. Always sterilize your tools, or use sterile hands when you're retrieving any kind of a hair or anything that would be related to Bigfoot. You try to do a sample because your DNA can rub off on your hands onto it. It's one of the things I carry. I also tend to carry chopsticks because one of the things I do plaster casting. Sometimes you'll have plaster casts that might fall apart, and I usually put these inside of a plaster casting to make sure they're firm. Or it's good to stick these in the ground with a little flag or something so you can remember to mark yourself. So I usually use these. So save your chopsticks, they come in handy. Also, when we go out in the field, a lot of us will carry noisemakers, or Mark carries a blowhorn, but I use a whistle. We try to keep in touch with each other in the field. If I've got an emergency and I blast, she better come running. because we got to keep an eye on each other in the field. This is one of my whistles. I brought today some examples of some Bigfoot prints. You guys are welcome to look at them. One of the most interesting ones, even though it's small, is the Onion Mountain cast. This was from Oregon, I believe. It shows the...
California.
I thought it was Oregon.
Onion Mountain is California.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the other... Which one am I thinking from Oregon? Okay, I got that backwards. Anyways, these have these little dermal ridges that they talk about. That's very rare to find them. And this is one of many casts. They cast a whole bunch of them, but they have the dermal ridges. If you guys have heard about the dermal ridges, you're welcome to pick these up and look at them. Kids I don't want picking up looking at it. The adults I can trust. But you'll see them all on the edge. Everybody has that on their feet. If you examine your feet, you'll see on the sides of your feet, just like the sides of our hands, we all have very individual lines and things, just like footprints, fingerprints are all different. Apes don't have that. But Bigfoots and people will have those dermal ridges. So that's how you can tell sometimes if Bigfoot or not. This is actually the Patterson, a copy of the Patterson cast from Bluff Creek in 1967. This is probably a copy of a copy, but this is probably one of the most well-known casts. Here's a picture of Patty, signed by Bob Gimlin. I met him. I looked in Bob Gimlin's eyes, and I got a pretty good BS detector, and I'm telling you, he's telling the truth. He told me stories about the day that him and Roger Patterson went out, and I believed him. Besides being a Bigfoot researcher, I'm a psychic. And so I can kind of tell if he's lying to me or not. And he claimed that when the Bigfoot turned and looked, this famous picture of Patty turning and looking is when he pulled his gun. And when he pulled his gun to cover Roger, the Bigfoot turned and looked at him like she knew he pulled the gun on him. He wasn't intending to kill her or anything, but he wanted to make sure he covered Roger. I've got a copy of the Cripplefoot cast prints, expert. This is also, you can see there's some lines drawn in here where they decided to put where they think the bones were. So she actually had a crippled foot. She must have crushed her foot. I keep saying it's a she. Sorry, Mark. It was walking around. Its footprints have been found all over. It wasn't just one set of footprints. They found footprints all over, so she was able to be tracked around the area. So these are several examples. Mark's got several examples of some big footprints. Some of them are from Salt Fork. The one that I think is a fake is this one. I know it looks like a Bigfoot print, but skunks tend to claw in the litter looking for grubs, and the day that was passed, I had seen it. I happened to be down there. This was in the handicap picnic area, and it was a big grassy hill, and there was one spot where there was mud, and supposedly a Bigfoot stepped in it. But to me, it looked like a skunk had been dragging marks, and it just looked like a skunk did this. So they cast this as a Bigfoot print, and I don't think so. I think this is questionable. This is a Don Petey cast, so I don't know. It doesn't feel right. It didn't look right. So you never know what you're going to get. You're going to get all kinds of different shapes and sizes in Bigfoot casts. I personally have not cast any casts because any of the footprints I've ever found weren't really detailed enough or good enough to cast. They got to be pretty clear. Me and Mark are going to work on maybe getting a casting demonstration for you. And I wanted to turn this over to also Mark Mazel, because Mark Mazel has an interesting backpack of stuff that you probably should pay attention to what he brings. This is what he carries in the field all the time when he goes out, and I mean in the middle of nowhere. So, yeah.
Getting back to there's several people here that had rocks from that.
Yes.
Okay. Has anyone ever returned the rocks back to them?
I have.
What was the response?
Most of nothing.
Nothing?
Last time it was beginning of July. I had a little work on me. I tossed it back and looked across the creek at him, and nothing happened. No, I always want something bigger. I wanted it to escalate.
Yeah, I've heard of people boating down in Salt Fork who were actually in a boat fishing right there near Hozak's Cave, and like big boulders, like big rocks, are tossed from way up high down into the river. It wasn't like it just kind of skipped down off the mountainside and plumped into the lake. It was tossed. And I think that if they have accuracy, I think if they really wanted to toss it on your head, they could hit you.
Well, tell me something. With all the activity in Saltport, do you think some of these things are being done by people?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think that now that the TV show's been on, there's been a lot of attention.
I also
There's
think that
all
some
kinds
of it's cyclical and seasonal. To be honest, we had stuff going on up until right around the beginning of June, and since then I've been back there 3 or 4 times, and nothing's happened since the beginning of June.
The park gets saturated with people. There's so many people there now.
Well, I don't go when I'm talking. I don't go like the weekend either. I go in the middle of the week.
Yeah, that's when I like to go too.
Do you go at the end of hunting season or anything like that?
I camp all year round, and it depends. So I think, to be honest, the best time for Ohio for squashing anywhere in the state of Ohio, the 2 best months are April and October.
I would agree. I would agree that October, because
April and October.
the Bigfoots down in Salt Fork know where their hunting areas are, and they know where the non-hunting areas are.
Well, there's a lot of water going through Salt Fork.
Well,
Does anyone track those little creeks that go off the property of Salt
you can
Fork?
only take it so far before you hit private property.
Right.
And all those. I will tell you, if there's a person around that has covered more foot ground in Salt Fork than besides myself, I'd be surprised. Except for a few of the local people down there that live there.
In most of the streams.
I have done just about everywhere. I did all the scouting for finding Bigfoot. I logged over $2,500 on that ball.
Have you went to the private landowners to see if you can?
There's not really a point. I don't see the point because within most of the stuff that's
Well, during
happening.
hunting season, we're going to, if there's less activity on the private property.
There's also parts of the park that don't. There's good parts of the park, to be honest, that are not hunting areas. And then, to be honest, I know several people that have seen them during hunting season that have been sitting up in their deer stands during hunting season, so they're in that part of the park.
Well, I believe that you're definitely visiting Salt Fork.
Salt Fork's plan for natural resources is different than most state parks. They plant Salt Fork. Plants corn, radishes, and lettuce throughout the parks. There's all those little side roads. Most of those leave their little fields that they plant. Now they rotate those crops throughout the area. They plant those for the animals to eat it so that they get the hunters to get the big animals. If you follow that chain of events, the squatch is being those areas too. So that's the interesting thing about Salt Fork, where a lot of other state parks don't do that.
Yeah. So Mark Mazel's got some very interesting things that he carries in your bag. You guys might want to pay attention to what he shows you and give you an idea of what you probably should carry with you in the field. So I'll turn this over to Mark and let him explain his method of madness and what he carries with him. He carries a lot more than I do. But,
Move my recorder over.
You sexy bitch. You're such a sexy bitch. I carry one of those too, by the way. Anyway, this is what I carry in the field. I modify it depending on where I'm going.
feel free to...
Oh, all right. How much do you... I have a thermal here. Everybody knows what thermals are. This is night vision.
Have you guys ever seen those before?
We'll play with those as they get darker. They're much funner.
Yeah.
A little more?
This is my pig sticker. This knife alone is $300.
Ooh, nice.
Take a guess. Huh?
Your thermal is 3,500, right?
No, that was the night vision. That was
Tell everybody what they
the
call.
thermal.
Shy, come
The
on.
thermal. No, we're gonna get a guess. Come on, take a guess.
Everything there?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Everything there?
Everything. Ballpark it.
I'll say 8,000.
About 12. About 12. This is about $7 grand by itself. So this is about 10,500 just here.
Yeah, I know thermal's pretty expensive.
So I'm not including everything else. All this stuff. I'm serious.
Tell everybody what you carry in your pack.
So anyway, this is basic survival gear because I believe somebody should have it out there. So you have a basic backpack. And to be honest, do I use most of this stuff? No. Do I carry most of this stuff all the time? Yes. because you just never know. You carry survival stuff, you have light sticks, you know, she carries a horn, I carry, you know, good for, like, when you chase bear and make them cry. You know, everybody says, oh, we're going to see Sasquatch through our, wrong one. Binoculars, good luck with that. You know, by the time if you see something and you can figure out what it's on it, yeah, it's gone. So I've never used these for that.
And I wonder if the Sasquatch thinks you're picking up a gun, too. They may not know the difference between
I don't think that they know what any of that is, but I do think that they know that if you know that you're looking at them. E-Trex, just handheld GPS, MP3 recorder, document.
I like to use the Olympus recorders.
Actually, Sony makes Sony BFO recommends a Sony. I forget what the hell the name of it is. It's about $65, and it'll go for under. You can record for quite a long time, and with an omnidirectional microphone, you can do it. I don't know. I don't do that. You know, I put my money into visual instead of that. You know, we have other guys that do that kind of stuff. Rope, just because, well, you never know when you might need rope. Either kind, so I carry both, small and large blower. Now, more likely that I have jumped off the side of little cliffs and ledges, so, you know, if I have to get up. An entrenching tool, if you have to go to the bathroom, be ecologically friendly. It's also a weapon, to be honest. It's a nice little weapon if you need it. Different light sources. I don't carry anything bright within the BFO. You carry a big bright white, we yell at you, because, you know, that's about as bright as we'll go, unless you're into something really bad.
Okay, they say squatches shy away from bright light, shine it in their eyes, because that's a natural response.
Well, if an animal is used to more darkness than is light, and they're not just nocturnal, so even when Finding Bigfoot says that they're nocturnal, bullshit. I'll tell you right now, Finding Bigfoot's wonderful. It's a TV show. I've argued with the producers. I still argue with the producers who talk about coming back right now. It's a TV show, and they're in for the ratings, which is fine. You know, it does Matt wonderful. I love the TV show.
Can you use a bright light as a defensive tool?
I guess you could. I mean, I know of one of our investigators years ago. It was in Washington, state of Washington, and we're not supposed to light them up like that, but occasionally it happens. And he went to a spot, he went back to where he thought his stuff had happened. He lit him up with a 1,000,000 candle power spot. He said that they were like boxers trying to duck the punches and get out of it. You know.
What type of bright light are we talking about?
That was a 1,000,000 candle power spot.
And the average person doesn't carry that.
Yeah. Most Bigfooters have a 1,000,000 candle power spot somewhere within their arsenal. I know I have one in the back of the car. I've never used it, but it's there. I mean, to be honest, during Sharon's Bigfoot Adventure weekend, we thought we might have a squatch up there on the hill because I was with one other gentleman and he saw it, and I saw something through the thermal. I went after it with just this much white light. I turned this on, I said, oh, the hell with it. I pulled a moneymaker and went up the hill after it. Now the bad thing is that the two people who were with me followed me. It wasn't a squatch, it was a bear. And it ran away crying. So you have bear spray. Pepper spray, mace, I carry. About $40, shoots about 40 feet. I carry no weapon. I don't carry a pistol or anything else like that. Multitude of radios because I have really crappy luck with radios. So earphones, so everything else you can hear what's going on, but you know, as far as noise discipline, although I don't really believe in noise discipline when people go out in the woods and they're real quiet. Most people, hunters, do that, so I don't. In fact, I encourage the groups that I'm with and I'm leading to talk. You want to make it something different, you want to make it something that they're not used to. If they're used to being in an area where they see hunters all the time and the hunters are quiet, they think it's a hunter. They might equate it with dinner or whatever, but they're not going to find it interesting. So you want to do something out of the ordinary to bring the animals to you because you're not going to find it. Bigfoot finds you.
You ever try like some kind of a scent?
Bacon.
Or air freshener like thing?
You know, I don't see why not. I've never done it. I mean, I've used these. I like these because they're visual, so I'll send people just swinging these around if there's kids. You know, I've sent people on the Appalachian Trail, a group of women singing Christmas carols in July down the Appalachian Trail. So, I mean, if you can think of it and try it, why not? It's something different.
Right now, an air freshener.
So,
Gotten any response from the air horn?
I've never tried the air horn. I think that's too harsh of a thing.
Yeah.
You know, that might be a warning kind of thing. So, I mean, just talking and stuff like that. One thing the BFO is doing right now with it is and you've seen it in Finding Bigfoot, and to be honest, they poach from us all the time. They have access to everything that we have access, so anything we talk about they know about is whale sounds. So we've been trying whale sounds, and there's been interesting responses throughout the country to whale sounds right now going on. Jim Sherman out of Michigan was one of the people that thought about that first, and if you see his stuff, he's got the Isabella County recordings. I carry alcohol. You know, sometimes you get responses to things with an alcohol, so I carry an alcohol. Ponchos.
What about turkey or anything like that?
I just carry the alcohol. Any predator call is fine. You know, I don't see a reason for it. I carry a couple different knives, a multi-tool, and then in case, you know, whatever, a really cheap knife, but it has anything else in case somebody gets stuck out there. Because this bag isn't just for me, it's for whoever's on the team. You know, I normally like groups of 3, so if something happens, one can go out, one can stay, and whoever's hurt's there. I don't go out by myself. I'm not afraid. Anybody knows me. I'm not afraid to be out there by myself. It's just stupid. You know, I've sprained ankles, and I do stupid things, so I don't do it by myself. The other thing is I carry emergency matches, a really cheap-ass snake bite kit, an emergency blanket, and then fire starter. So I have an all-spark on here. I have flint stuff in here. I have magnesium strips in here, and my favorite,
You have a big,
dryer lint.
you have a big light.
And yep, a couple Bic lighters and dryer lint. So I'll get a fire started with that there if I have to. So this is the stuff I carry. Bug spray. I also carry baby powder. Why would I carry baby powder?
Prints.
Absolutely. If you got a print that you can't really pull out and you need to do it, something like that, you can highlight the print. As long as you don't pull it out and see it, you can use it to highlight the print. The other thing I carry, because you always see everybody say, I've got a Bigfoot footprint, and they put their foot right next to it. Footprints are all every different size. I am about 6 foot tall, and if I take my shoe off, I have about an 8.5 foot. So for a man my size, I have an extremely small foot. So how the hell am I going to be able to tell you what size Bigfoot footprint is unless you have one of these? And when you take the print, and we'll talk about that when they do the casting a little bit later, how to properly take the picture of the print, because you always see they're always scooped up, so we'll go over that a little bit later. In case you get the areas where you need to mark Hansel and Gretel, high-tech, low-tech, everybody's got the high-tech smartphones, they've got the GPS, which are wonderful, and I use mine all the time, and it works great here. You get to a spot that doesn't have them, guess what?
Use that at compass.
Low-tech.
Low tech, right?
So I carry all sorts of different things. Knife sharpener. All my knives are extremely sharp. Any questions?
Yeah, what brand of bear spray do you use?
I have no idea. I've had that thing for 7 years. The only time I ever set it off was by mistake in my basement. Don't ever do that.
You never try it out?
No. I set it off by mistake in the basement once, and I couldn't go down there for a better part of a day.
Ever put a stationary camera anywhere?
Yes, I've actually run through the BFRO. I ran a 2-year camera project. I don't know if you know who Wally Horstman is. He's the guy that is the big money guy. If you've heard Melba Ketchum's studies with the DNA and all that.
Oh yeah, Ben.
Have you heard of it? The Melba Ketchum study? He's the money behind most of the stuff. That if you ever hear about anything going on and it costs money, he's the guy. So I ran a project for 2 years here because I have on disc over there. One of my teams was the first people in 30 years to record something similar to what Ron Moorhead and the Sierra Sounds recorded. And I recorded here in Ohio in April of 2007. So Wally Hurst and Matt Moneymaker came out, and I've known Matt for a couple of years before. That's the first time I met Cliff was back in 2007 when he came out. They came out, and I ran a 2-year camera project. And nothing happened. I'm a firm believer that they can hear the equipment. We can't hear it, but I believe that they can hear it. So, unless you can find a way to mask the sound of it, because it does make a noise. I mean, if anybody doesn't believe me that they make a noise, look at how many deer pictures you have, and the deer's looking at the camera. And that's an IR camera.
Do you feel that they can see IR?
There's still debate to this day about it. There's debate even in the BFRO what range level they can see, whether it's 970 millimeters versus about 1010. So it's a debate because nobody knows. Can it be? Sure, because I mean, if I turn this on later tonight, you won't be able to see the IR as it spreads out, but I guarantee you will see the generation spot on here. from a good 50, 60 feet away, so why not? I don't see, that's why you get more stuff with the thermal. It's passive. It's reading whatever's out there, so that's why you get something like what Bart Catino caught several months ago out in California, and his documentation of that, which he did an excellent job on.
What generation is your night vision?
Third. I've had, and to be honest, the prices of this stuff now are cheaper. I bought this back when it was new and I wanted it. So, like, anytime you want anything like that, you pay top dollar for it. Something you can get a decent, a thermal, nice thermal. They even does some things that this one doesn't for $2,500 to $3,000 nowadays. So.
Now, does that one record?
It can. I have a DVR I didn't bring. That was another $700. I don't care anymore because, to be honest, a thermal image is not going to prove anything to anybody. This young lady sat up to my left and I in April when we went to Salt Fork, or no, I'm sorry, May 14th. Watched what I thought was a deer for a little bit. She's the one who first saw it. She handed it back to me, and I watched what I thought was deer, and I was telling her deer until the damn thing stood up on 2 legs from across the lake, and I said, oh shit, it stood up. I said, oh fuck, it's walking. And here I am. I've been doing this for a lot of years, and you know what? I concentrated on, I didn't get the whole picture. I mean, I know it had a torso, I know it had a head, but I concentrated on its legs. I was just so surprised and shocked that all I was really paying attention to was the scissor walk of 2 legs like this. And then when it got around the tree, I gave it back to her because she had to see it too. And she watched it disappear off into the woods. Now, to go back for that investigation, we've gone back there several times. To walk to that spot, the shortest way is about 5.5 miles in and out. And whoever this thing was, or person was, didn't have an external light source because I did scan the area with this. And this thing, I'll show you later, if you put somebody with a lighter all the way over that far tree line over there and you just look through this, it's like seeing the sun. So they didn't have an external light source. When we walked back there with Ed during her weekend, it's probably 75 to 100 feet down through heavy force and stuff. So to do it with no lights, I'm nuts, but I wouldn't do it. It's at a good 45-degree drop. And then another time we went back, we put somebody over there with a boat, and my Sasquatch in waiting was one of our investigators out of Kentucky who was with us. He's 6'4", 240, and he was small. So, you know, this took a month to go back over and work it and work the case. Do I think I saw a squatch? I think that the probability is pretty good. Can I say I saw a squatch or we saw a squatch? No. Because the thermal doesn't prove anything. I know I saw something bipedal. Can I say it's a squatch? I wish I could. To be honest, I won't ever say I saw a squatch until it's from here to that tree. And that's just what it's going to be.
Those thermals are pretty definitive.
They're definitive of something upright and walking. I mean, it's not, unless you do a complete breakdown of any of that kind of stuff, where you have ambient air temperatures, distance documented, and then you're able to sit there and line things up so that you're able to get heights and all that, it makes it suspect. And I mean, no matter how well you do it, you're still going to have the people say, oh, guess what? It's just a person. So I'm beyond trying to prove it to anybody else. That's why I don't carry the recorder. It's another pound that I don't want to carry. I'm done with it, you know.
So
I'm enjoying it.
The thermal is going to enable us to, if we thermal one up on the hillside and have a team go in at it.
Absolutely. It's a nice tool.
Try to get footage that way, or have an encounter. I mean,
it's a good tool, but in its amongst itself, it doesn't prove anything. I mean, he got to see what could have been a squatch before I did. That's the first time. I mean, that thing's seen a squatch in 4 different states because I've lent it out and let it go everywhere. And this is the first time I thought it would have. In March, we were out somewhere, and he got to watch with something up on the hill. So,
why don't you play those sounds for them? He's got a pretty good collection of some Bigfoot sounds.
Everybody's heard of Ron Moorhead, right? Sierra sounds.
Not everybody.
I am.
Well, explain to everybody what they're going to hear. Maybe hear it. Noise.
Actually, what it is in the 70s, Ron Moorhead was, and his brother and several other guys, and I've met him. He's from Mariposa, California. Nice guy. Met him after 2007, that we recorded this. I saw him in May, but he was back in Ohio this past May. recorded these things off a really crappy recorder. A newspaper man by the name of Al Berry came out there to do a story on it. He thought they were all full of crap, and they recorded these, and that's what's on his sounds. On all the things, he just put out a new one, a book called Voices in the Wilderness, and the first sounds that he's recorded besides his own that he's thought cut the mustard, basically. That cuts the mustard short. No, we're not talking about passing gas. Anyway, that was up to snuff was sounds that we recorded in 2007, which is on.
So some of these sounds, it almost sounds like it's talking. Sounds like a good stuff. You guys
There's a
wanna?
gentleman by the name of Scott Nelson that does. He's a cryptolinguist that's done heavy study into this stuff, and he thinks that, and it's his theory that Sasquatch talks at least twice as fast as we do. That there is language here, and that it's about, you have to slow it down to about half speed before you can start interpreting it. And he has all these words and all that beyond me. I don't know. That's what he says.
So these are allegedly Sasquatch sounds. You guys want to come close to listen? I don't know if you should know.
26th of September 1974. We just arrived at camp. It's 7:30, and we're seeing that.
Something like that.
Like Randall and Sonya.
They do whistle. I've heard them whistle quite a few times. Never in Ohio. Never really whistle in Ohio. No, that's not true. I have. Columbia County.
He's encouraging me. He's going, come on.
Oh, they don't. Alright, so you're getting this one a little different than the project. He's a little happier, but we'll go to the one that one of my team recorded in 2007, and you'll see.
That's part of Ohio.
Huh?
What part of Ohio?
Columbiana County, just to the southeast of here.